Well, it's been a debated point for so many months, but as of this week, face masks are now set to become mandatory in enclosed spaces where we're coming close contact with people, places like shops. Fortunately, we have the internet between you and me just now, so I don't need this on. But the thing I've been thinking about this mask is this. This mask isn't going to stop me from getting the coronavirus, but it may protect others from me. It may stop me from spreading the virus to others without my knowing it. So although it's a pretty strange thing to do, it's a good thing. Loving our neighbours as ourselves, as Jesus commanded us to, must surely mean being prepared to do something as minor as wearing a mask to protect those around me. But actually, important as face masks are you aware that there is something far deadlier that comes out of your mouth sometimes? Something that actually has far greater consequences than any virus, even though it's unlikely to ever make the news. One of the great tragedies of the mask debate is the way it's become a cause, or maybe an excuse, just for further polarisation in society. Perhaps we've seen that especially in the US. Just opportunity for, once again, people who disagree to shout at one another. And it shows us just how urgent our need is in our society for some kind of mask that will catch the words that come out of our mouths sometimes. Now, perhaps that sounds like exaggeration to you. Maybe it's not that bad, surely, is it? Well, let me read to you Jesus' assessment of the situation, how serious he takes our words. This is from Matthew chapter 5, part of the Sermon on the Mount, verses 21 to 22. Jesus says this: "You've heard that our ancestors were told, 'You must not murder. If you commit murder, you are subject to judgment.' But I say, if you are even angry with someone, you are subject to judgment. If you call someone an idiot, you are in danger of being brought before the courts. But if you curse someone, you are in danger of the fires of hell." Do you see that? Jesus classes our hateful words under the commandment that forbids murder. Because those are words that are seeking to destroy somebody in some way. Not literally, but they're seeking to pull them down, to tear them down, to put them in their place. Later on in the New Testament, in his letter, James tells us that the tongue is like a tiny spark that can set an entire forest ablaze. It can cause that much destruction. That is how important our words, my words, your words, are to God. So let me ask you, do you have the necessary spiritual face mask in place? How do you speak to your spouse, to your children, to that difficult family member, to your colleagues? How do you speak about your boss, about our political leaders? In those times when you're feeling annoyed, when you're feeling rubbed up the wrong way, what comes out of your mouth at those times? You see, all too often we excuse ourselves by the need to tell it straight. Or we excuse ourselves because, well, he was just being so unreasonable. Or I just needed to speak my mind. In just the same way as people are actually opposing face masks as though they are seeking to preserve some fundamental, basic freedom. But actually, in reality, it's just a lack of love. It's not prepared to do something as minorly inconveniencing as wearing a face mask for the good of my neighbour. And these kind of attitudes that are so prevalent and that are increasingly prevalent in our society, this obsession with my rights and my being able to do whatever I like and feeling free to treat my speech like machine gun fire to take down someone who's annoyed me, they are two of the deadliest forces that are at work in our society. And as I see them at work in society around us, I am quite sure that they are far deadlier to our communities than the coronavirus ever will be. So it's no surprise to me that God speaks so strongly on these subjects, and He commands me, He commands us as His people to be radically different. Now that is a challenge. It does not come naturally. It is a lifelong project. But at the same time, it is also a rich blessing as we discover the sheer goodness of God's ways as He lays them out for us in His words. So I invite you to reflect on these things in the days ahead as you don your face mask, as you head out to the shops. And as you do that, just take that as an opportunity to ask for the Holy Spirit to come, to change your heart in those situations where the words that want to come pouring out of your mouth most need to be caught before the spark lands, before the fire spreads. Let's take it as an opportunity to reflect on our own hearts, to seek that we may be islands of hope in our society, and that be seen by the words that come out of our mouths.